What's up, tea drinkers? Who's ready to spill? Welcome to The Tea with KG, hosted by your girl, Kaylee Grace. Here you'll find your weekly boost of real talk mixed with laughter, healing, and all of those vulnerable, messy moments in between. The Tea with KG is a safe space for you to show up exactly as you are. We are here to share real-life stories from around the globe and be a community of love, joy, and celebrating life. This is a real deal show, so there will be coarse language and sensitive topics discussed. The most beautiful stories oftentimes emerge from the darkest of places, and we're here to explore it all. There's room for everyone at this tea time, so grab your drink of choice, spark it up, or just relax and soak it up. Cheers, and let's spill. What's up, tea drinkers? We are back with another episode of The Tea with KG. I am your host, Kaylee Grace, and I have another amazing guest joining me this week. We have the beautiful Michelle Allison. Yay!
Hi, everybody.
Hey, thank you so much
Hey,
for joining us. I'm so excited to have you.
excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Michelle is from Miramichi, New Brunswick. She's a registered social worker and a grief and loss ambassador. She has a very, very powerful, touching story she's going to share with us today. So, I just want to thank you again for allowing me to share your story on this platform. I'm getting goosebumps the whole time I'm talking, by the way. I'm like, ooh, it's going to be a good one. So, I really do appreciate you coming on today.
Oh, thank you, Kate.
Of
I, lo-
course.
I love telling my story, so it's a great opportunity. So thank you.
Absolutely. So we'll start with the who are you and what do you do?
You gotta love that question, eh? Like it's like we label ourselves as this is who I am,
Mm,
right? But I will do it, yeah.
yes, just a little
So
background.
yeah, background. So yeah, I'm a registered social worker. So I worked with addictions and mental health for, gosh, aged myself, but over 21 years, almost 22 years. I always worked with kids and youth. That's been my passion. And probably the last, gosh, I would say 8 years at least, probably longer. I've been in leadership roles, so either supervisory or management. So currently I'm a manager there. So yeah, that's been, and I say this a lot to people that I find women, especially at my age, you're getting to the middle age, and you put so much of your value in your job and your title,
Mm,
and not necessarily in yourself. And that was a big
preach.
learning lesson for me. Was I worked so hard to get to where I was, and I put a lot of value. And I was really love my, and I do love my job, but that's not everything, right?
1000%. I'm
I
so happy
just
you
want to
said that.
point that out right there when I
Yeah.
say who I am. And of course, I'm a mom. I have two beautiful children, and I like to say I have two beautiful children.
Hmm.
One lives with me, and one lives in spirit.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's and it does. I get choked up still 3 years later, and I
Yeah.
don't say I'm sorry. I used to say I'm sorry, and I find a lot of people do that too. Is they say I'm sorry.
Mm,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm crying, or I'm sorry. I'm upset. When it's natural
yes.
and it's part of life and it's part of the love.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
I can relate to everything you're saying, even like the work thing. Yeah, I feel like that was embedded in me at such a young age. And it's so much pressure. And it's like that's not who you are, what you do for your job. Like it's part of what you do every day, but it's not who you are. So I
It's not the
love that you
it's
said
not your
that.
value. Yeah, your value and your self-worth.
Exactly.
Your self-worth
Yes.
isn't in your job. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, with the crying too. I'm a crier and I again can relate to that cuz
Yeah.
sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And then I'm like, "No, these are
Yeah,
your
because we like,
tears you need to
especially
release."
women, eh? It's like a
Yeah.
weakness. Like, oh, there's the girl crying again.
Yeah,
And that was for
yeah.
me too. I was always a tough exterior, work through things, been through a lot
Mhm.
in my life up until when I lost my son. I've been through a lot before that. I was an expert, I thought, in grief already. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess I should rewind. My grief story actually started when I was very young. I was 17, about to graduate, and my father suddenly died of a massive heart attack.
Wow.
So, your whole world changes. And at that age, I didn't really process what happened. I just kind of, and that's how our society works. We're grief illiterate, so we don't talk about it. We mourn well. So we do all the rituals, we do the wakes, we do the bring, the sandwiches and cupcakes, and, you
Yeah.
know, our community is great for doing that part, the ritual part, the mourning part, because the mourning's what's on the outside, right? And the
Yes.
grief is what's inside that people don't
Yes.
see. So we're really good at mourning. And, then I graduated, went off to college, became a social worker. Very proud of that. I was the first in my family to get
Yes.
a degree. So again, there was a
Woo!
lot of, this is who I am now, right? Which
Mhm.
isn't really yet. But anyway, then honestly, I've lost almost all of my family. I'm from a
Wow.
small family as it is, but all of my aunts and uncles, my grandparents, friends, cousins. The only loss I haven't myself experienced is a sibling loss, which I have seen through my daughter, what that does.
Yes.
So then in 2019, um, it was Easter weekend, and Avery's my son, and he just got off work at Canadian Tire, and I tried to text him, no answer, or I tried to call him, no answer, text, no response. And because of social media now, it's amazing, it's great, but it's also not great. We found out there was an accident in Nelson, and 4 kids were involved. So none of us knew. We never got contacted yet as to what happened. My ex-husband took off to the hospital to see if it was him. Anyway, so we ended up at the hospital. It was him. There was 4 kids. Um, Long story. It was a long, painful night. He was airlifted to Moncton, um, but he died on. Well, they were doing CPR when we got to Moncton on him. So
Wow.
yeah, that was a huge tragedy for our whole community because all 4 did
Mhm.
pass. Avery, his best friend, and 2 girls. So yeah, it just changed my life completely. They say you
Absolutely.
never understand something until you go through it, and that's completely true. Being a social worker, you try to be alongside with people going through grief.
Mhm.
We're not educated on how to help people. It's
Yes.
in our school, in our lives, in our communities, in our
Yeah.
families. It's that subject no one wants to talk about, and it's the one thing that's going to happen to everybody.
So true.
So yeah,
So,
so
so
that really
true.
put me on a path to a completely new. I don't even know how to explain what transpired, but it it changed the trajectory of my whole life in good
Yes.
ways too, not just bad.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, wow. That's such a I don't have human babies yet, so I can't even relate. That's such a significant loss, and my heart, it goes out to you because it's a lot, and it's just you're so I mean, I'm sure you've heard this, but your strength is amazing, and I mean, I've watched you just via social media, and you're sharing your heart and your grief, and I feel like that's so important because like you're saying, like it's stuff that hasn't been talked about enough, and in order for us to grow as people and connect and be compassionate towards each other, we have to share our stories. And our stories, it's life. They're going to include
if
every aspect, right?
yeah.
So I commend you for being that person that will share that with people because it's just I know
Sometimes
it
you
can
just have
be
to listen to that voice inside you, right? I
yeah.
don't know why I started doing that. That's not like me. I'm not a
Mm,
huge extrovert that puts her whole life on Facebook or really talks about her life in general. If you ask my friends, I'm very much a closed off person and deal with it on my
hmm.
own. I don't need any help, and I don't tell people what's really going on. And this was something that just, you were so shattered and you're so just clinging and looking for hope and a way out of that darkness, that this
Hmm.
is writing was my way out of the darkness. And it's a gift,
Yeah.
obviously, that was given to me to help myself. I was doing it for myself as much as other people. It was helping me
Hmm.
heal, definitely helping me heal, probably more than other people. And
Absolutely.
what you said before, and I've done a lot of I'm not a reader. Before this, I did the Coles Notes version for high school. I did the easiest way I could get through any, I was not a reader. And ever since Avery passed, it's just like, okay, I need to understand. I need to find where he is, where he could be, how do people get through this?
Yes.
What other forms of therapy are out there, I was just a sponge and just craving for information.
Mm,
And I think that really helped me too, is you just get such a overall view of different ways of healing, because everyone's grief is as unique as your fingerprint. No two people,
absolutely.
even the four moms that were of the four kids, we all grieve differently. Same
Hmm.
exact situation, a lot of the same details, yet we all grieve differently, as anyone would, right?
Yeah. That,
And
yeah.
it's one of those things. I'm just so, and again, I've been through a lot of grief in my life, but this one was just like, okay, you need to claw your way back out, and how are you going to do that this time?
Hmm.
And
Totally.
we come David Kessler says this, and I'm going to speak about him a lot because he's really been my guide. And he says, we come from a long line of dead people. you know there's
It's true.
100% death right here, like we're all going to die. We've come from a long line of dead people.
I like
And yet,
that. I've never heard
right,
that
he's
before.
very blunt, but it's really, what, that's right. And
It's
how
true.
long, and he'll say too, how long is, if someone asks him, how long is someone going to grieve? Well, how long are they going to be dead? Because that's how long you're going to grieve. There is no time frame to this. There
That's
is no
right.
after a year, because I found that too with Avery, and I know with my dad too, but it was just different. I guess I was younger and didn't really know how to process it, and it was a different
Yeah.
form of loss. But it's after I noticed I had a lot of support in the first year, to get you through. And it's almost like society feels like, okay, you got all the first done, you checked all those off. Now it's time to just tuck that in a nice little box, put it in the corner, and get back to your old life. Because it's not healthy to dwell on that. It's not healthy to keep talking about them, and that's the way our culture sees it. And it's so wrong, and it causes so much
So wrong. Oh my
shame, and
God.
people feel like they're doing it
Preach.
wrong, right? And that's just,
It's
it's just
not
not the way it
it.
is.
It's
No,
like healing. Healing, no matter what you're healing from, it's not linear. You're never going to be like, yep, here we go. And then
no.
it's done. It's going to be like a roller coaster, a wave, however you want to envision it in your head. And like I always say too, even healing from my own trauma and demons, like sometimes I'm like, woo, like I'll take two steps forward and then,
Mhm.
oh, something will happen and I go backwards. So
Yeah.
don't feel shame either, anyone listening, if you I'm saying this in air quotes if you're not watching, if you think you should be done healing. No. It's not like that. It's an
It's
everlasting thing. It may feel different in different sections of your journey and you may navigate things differently, which is good. It's a great
Yeah.
thing to navigate. And I find myself too, things may still trigger me, but I may handle it slightly different than I would have
Mhm.
before. So
Yeah.
don't ever feel
Yeah.
shame if you're dealing, people, because
And shame only lives in the stories we don't tell, right?
exactly.
So if you have the courage and the vulnerability to tell your story and where you're at, there's no
Mhm.
shame there.
No,
It
exactly.
loves secrecy. So as long as there's secrecy, shame can thrive. But as
I
soon as you
love
get
that
rid
you
of
just
that,
said that.
right?
It loves
So
secrecy.
true.
That
Hmm.
we're quoting that right now.
Hmm.
Shame loves secrecy. Ooh, like I
Yeah.
love that because it's so true. And
Hmm.
when we bring that to light, like we realize you're not alone. There are millions of
Oh my
people,
gosh.
right?
So, like, if you just say, like, if I asked you right now, name three losses you've had in your life, how hard is that for you to do? And
Exactly.
loss isn't just the death of someone. Loss is the loss of a
Exactly.
relationship, the loss of a
Hmm.
job, loss of a pet,
Yep.
loss of identity, loss
Oh my
of
God.
your
Yes.
safety, of your childhood. Like, it's everything. Like, you can't be
Yes.
connected. We're born for connection. So you can't have connection and not have loss and grief. They
Exactly.
just,
Exactly. Oh my
you know,
God. I'm just like, I
it's,
literally, the whole time we've been talking, I have goosebumps the entire time. Like, this is so, so powerful. And I love that you're sharing this because it's so true. Like, anyone dealing with any loss, don't feel shame and find that safe space where you can open, whether it be people directly around you, maybe on social media, this podcast, for instance, very safe space here. If you need anything, I mean, we'll make sure we plug in Michelle's social medias at the end, but we're here. So reach out if this is resonating and you want to speak further. Like I know she's super open and she's very warm and easy to speak with. So, if you're listening and it's resonating at the end, we'll make sure we tag everything in.
because it was hard for me. I'm used to being the helper. I'm used to being the one to help people that are going through loss and grief and tragedy and trauma. Like, and for me to be on the other side was very hard. And it
Yeah.
really was an eye-opening experience to see, what? We really aren't helping people the way we should. we don't
Mhm.
understand. And David Kessler, so maybe a little background on him too,
Mhm.
is he was a grief therapist. They called him a grief expert. He kind of had a journey similar to mine, but again, everyone's is different. But he lost his mother from to cancer when he was, I think, 14. And it kind of
Right.
put him on this path towards social work and towards grief and loss and that being his focus. And then he lost his, I think he was 21-year-old son, and
Wow.
he would say, I want to write a letter to every parent I ever counseled or had in therapy to say, I'm so sorry, I never understood the depth of your grief, the depth of the pain, because you can't understand it until you're through it yourself.
That's
And
right.
so that was a big eye opener to me. Is as much compassion and empathy I have in my profession for other people and wanting to help, you can't fix this. There
That's
is no
right.
fixing grief. There's only witnessing, holding space, allowing them, sitting with them in the dark. Because I love this quote where it says, if you're with a friend, we all do it. We want to fix it for them because we don't want to see them in pain. Right. So
That's
if you're
right.
in the room, you're looking for the light switch on the wall, right? I got to turn that light on for them. And all they want you to do is sit in that dark room with them until they're ready to turn the
Yeah.
light on. But we as a
Exactly.
society and a culture and as therapists and friends and family, we want to fix it because it's uncomfortable for
Mhm.
us to see people in pain,
Exactly. Oh my God. I love that analogy too. Just trying to find the
right?
light.
Because you
And
can visually
it's,
see it, right? That's what we
yeah,
do, and
yeah,
there
it's
is no
so
fixing
true.
it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And one thing I've learned as well along the way is when you can finally sit with your pain and your grief, as it's not a walk in the park by any means. It's probably the
No.
hardest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah.
But it's, for me anyway, it was the only way through
Hmm.
some of the things that really rocked me in life. And I was like, if I was a number, I was like, let me numb my pain. I'm gonna
Hmm.
do this so I don't
Hmm.
have to feel it. Let's just keep going. Like that used to be me. And then, you get rocked really hard, and it totally challenges everything you ever knew, like you were saying earlier. And I was not with a loss of someone through death, but just with other types of trauma. And I was like, I'm either going to go this way or this way. Which way do I choose? I need to heal. And oh my God, sitting with your pain, hardest thing in the world, but worth it.
It's I say, like, grief is the most patient of all emotions. So if you want to run from
Yeah.
it, you can. If you want to, like, I see it to me it seemed like this tunnel, right? So you, like, right after, and it's normal, it can be for years for people, everyone's different, is the lights went out. There was no light anymore. There
Mm,
was no sun. There was no colors. There was no pretty rainbows, even though Avery
yeah.
would send me rainbows to remind me.
I
But
remember seeing those
rainbows, I'm
pictures.
telling you,
Yeah.
and people would like, because it was so out there and so obvious that my friends, my coworkers would be like, "Oh, Avery sent out, here's a," and they were on specific days, like certain days where there is a meaning to it a lot of
Mm.
times, and they're usually a double one. And I don't know if I just
Oh my
wasn't paying
God.
attention before, but I never seen so many double rainbows as I have this last 3 years.
I'm a
Like,
firm believer in symbolism like that. Like
yeah, oh,
butterflies is big for me.
it's
Like my
yeah,
grandmother, it's
hmm,
wild. And the way it shows up sometimes, it's not normal. Like it's like, okay, this
you can't
is
make it
you.
up. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's totally. Oh yeah, we've had so many different signs,
I
and
love
yeah,
those
a lot of
signs.
them
I
you
want to tell
can.
me the signs. I love
Oh
these
gosh, there's
stories.
been so many, and it's funny because my family and a lot of my friends too, and I was before, I was a skeptic. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the spiritual being doing smudging and doing spirit work and going to mediums and talking to spirit. Like, this wasn't me before. I was a huge
You are my
skeptic.
favorite person. I have another friend who was also a skeptic,
Yeah,
is not now. I love
no,
hearing a skeptic converted because
right?
you can show both sides. Because I've always
Yeah,
been very spiritual. So for
yeah.
me, I never really was skeptical. So when I meet a skeptic or
Mm.
former skeptic, I'm like, tell me
Tell me
what
how this
shifted.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot of friends that were very spiritual and very connected, doing cards, and
Yeah.
there's meaning in everything. I look at them like, okay, that's great, but I don't. Is that helping you? I guess that's helping you, but I didn't really believe them, and I
That's
feel bad
right.
for now. I'm like, oh, you were so right, and I was wrong. I'm so sorry because I should have been following you all along. But it's just not the way I was raised, and it's not
That's
the
right.
way I was brought up. So even my family, they were very closed off, and I think Avery was just like, you know what, guys, this is so traumatic for you all that I'm going to make sure there's signs, and my mom's going to make sure you see the signs even if you don't see the signs. And like right off the bat, like the wake would have been, I don't know, say 4 or 5 days later, And I was Avery's favorite. Avery had a sweet tooth, so Avery's favorite
Hmm.
candy were Swedish berries. And even my sister on his in the funeral arrangement she had done had them glue Swedish berries into each of the carnations or whatever
Oh,
flower they were. I can't remember now, but I remember the Swedish berries.
yes.
And I didn't have any in my house. I bought Easter eggs because it was Easter, but no Swedish berries. So I go up into my room to get change my shoes because I didn't want to wear I had heels and I'm like, I just want to be comfy. So I come
Yeah.
out of my walk-in closet. I already went in, came out of my walk-in closet to come back out because my brother was waiting for me. And here, nowhere to lie, was a Swedish
Stop.
berry in the middle of my floor.
Stop. I literally have tears in my eyes so hard right now. Whoa.
Like there's no denying. And that was like
No.
right after. And this is before I was starting to kind of, because I had separated from my husband like 2.5 years before that. So that kind of
Mm,
kickstarted my spiritual journey.
yeah.
And then this just kind of put the pedal to the metal
Yes.
for it. So I was kind of starting to kind of believe in some of that stuff, but that was like, holy
The
moly, like what
Swedish
is
berry.
that?
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't in the house. Was it like that was Avery. He was like,
Yeah.
hey.
Oh yeah, no, don't
Wow.
worry, don't worry, I'm okay. And just random like dimes. I get
Yes.
quarters. Lexa, my daughter, gets dimes. Like she bought her
Yep.
car in the fall from a guy in St. John. So he had cleaned it. It was immaculate when we bought it. So Avery had
Hmm.
purchased a car before he died too. So we had sold his car and that money was going to help Lex. So he kind of paid for some of her car. It was
Oh
kind of a
my
present to
gosh.
her, right?
That's
So
so
when we went
sweet.
down to St. John to get it, um, and my her dad was there too, and he said, "Come here and look." And as soon as we opened the driver's side door, in that little cubby hole, by the
Stop.
handle,
Yes.
was a dime.
Stop. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
You
Dimes
can
are
get
big for me
dimes and
too.
like see a dime on the street or on the road or even in your house. You'd be like, well, it could be, maybe it's not,
No,
right?
but
But that was
that
like,
oh
yeah,
yeah. I have some freaky dimes. Those are and this is my grandfather.
yeah.
I swear to God, Michelle, I have to tell this story because it's like it's just so weird. It's like one of those moments.
Mm,
I was in a room, this was back east, so I was in a room in my house and every door was open. Nobody was home except for me. Like the dog was not in the room. He was in the living room. The cats weren't in there. There was nothing there to stir things up. And I could hear like a ding 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 like of a coin hitting the floor and I was like what was that? And like I could see something fly into the hallway and I was like what just I went Michelle it was a dime. I was like oh it was the weirdest like it flew out of
yeah,
nowhere and I was just like okay I see you and like
yeah.
at that time in my life I definitely was needing
A
that
sign.
reassurance and things like
That you're not
that.
alone.
So
Hmm.
exactly, just
Yeah.
wild. And one of my psychic medium friends told me for spirit to show you physical things like that takes
Mhm.
like a lot of their
A lot of
energy.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So they
Yeah.
mean it. When they send you the signs,
Yeah.
everybody, they mean
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And then there'd be times where I don't get any for a long time. And I understand that like you don't need a sign, you're doing okay. I'm
Yep.
gonna go worry about someone else or,
Yeah.
or go do my own thing. But yeah, they're definitely they're healing like more
Mm.
than I've been to mediums, which I was again a skeptic, very
I'm
strong skeptic
curious to hear
about.
about that. Yeah.
And you can't make up what they tell you, and especially
No.
you'll resonate, you'll try, like I've tried a few, you resonate with some more than others.
Yes.
And one guy we go to, he's probably the one I go to the most, and I don't go a lot, and I don't feel I need to anymore. At the first, they're more than, to me, they were more healing than any therapy I could go to, because I
Oh,
need to know he
yeah.
was okay. As a
Yes.
mom, I need to know my son's okay. So I could do cognitive behavioral therapy, I could do work on my PTSD, whatever, but
Yeah.
that's not going to help me right now. I need to know he's
Yep.
okay,
This is
you
like your
know?
spiritual healing. I feel like I've seen you on this page, Peliki. Have you been to
Yeah,
him?
that's who I was going to say.
He's
He's our
amazing.
man. He's the
Oh
guy.
yeah. Like
Hmm.
my friends, and again, the skeptic I was referring to,
Hmm.
that's who turned her too.
I
He's
and it's
incredible.
funny you say that because I have a few friends too, and I'm like, okay, just go to him once.
Yes.
I completely agree. You can be a skeptic all you want. That's your choice. Go to
Mhm.
him and then tell me you're still a skeptic
Yeah.
after. And
Call me
yeah.
when you're done.
Call me when you're done, because I guarantee my daughter was probably worse than me. Like she was like
Yeah.
13, 14, right? Just trying to
Mhm.
figure the world out as it is, let alone
Oh,
have
of
this all
course.
happen, right? And
Yeah.
she was with me on my session. She came in at the end, and a few of the things he said to her, like, I know you smell his cologne the other night in the kitchen. Things she didn't tell me.
No. And
And
there's no
his Axe
way.
body spray he always
Yes.
wore, right?
Yeah.
And her eye, you could just see her, and it was something about, she had the Beats headphones, and one
Mhm.
side went she lost sound on one side. I don't know if it was left or right or whatever. And he had said to her, Avery's saying, do you remember? Or I guess your headphones aren't working now. And I took the left side's not working because they would torment each other all the time. That was their thing.
Yes.
So it was just like her mouse just dropped, and it's like, oh my gosh,
Whoa.
no one else. Because there's some things, you go to, especially as a skeptic, and you'd be like, you could have looked on my Facebook.
Yeah.
You, they're general, yes, those are sign. I got a dime. Well, anyone could find a dime and say that was a
Mhm.
sign. But the things he said were too, and especially at the first when I went to him, details about the accident that nobody else knew.
Oh,
Details about what happened in the room after he had died. He about who touched him where, who kissed him, what they said. Like no
oh
one knew
my
that,
God.
and you can't, so
No.
you
Oh my
can't
God.
make that up like that. Like
No.
even where they were sitting in the car, like things that no one would know. Some
Hmm.
things I didn't know till after, and I had to check. Some things Avery
Wow.
did with his friends. I'm like, oh no, my son wouldn't have done that. Oh no, he did. He did. Yep, he did. So it's so healing to know, okay, there is something more than what we were told to
Mhm.
believe, that there's a heaven, and then we never see them again, and they go away to this on the clouds and in the sky, and
Yeah.
that's just not what it is, you know.
No. Oh my gosh. I love that we're talking about him coming through. Like it's just wild. It's just amazing. And it just really like it's an ego check for humans because it's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, it's not 3D. Like there's so much to this universe that it's so fascinating to me. I'm like, let's explore it all. But
Mhm.
I
There's a
love,
story. Now I'm trying to think what book that's in because I have so
yeah.
many books.
Yes,
And it
yes, we
talks,
want
and
to
I
hear it.
I think it's in David Kessler's again. I'm seeing if I think I put a thing on it. And it's the coolest little story about, and it kind of explains that how we really don't understand. Okay, here it is here. So I don't know if you've heard it, but it's the twins in the womb story.
Oh, go
Have
for
you
it.
ever
Yeah,
heard that?
share. Oh, and also if you want to show the book, just in case anybody's
Okay. Oh,
curious.
this is
Yeah.
my go, and I don't know if you can see it.
Okay. What's it
Can you
called?
read it? It's called Finding Meaning: The Sixth Stage
Okay.
of Grief.
And it's David Kessler?
It's David Kessler. So, like
Perfect.
for me and any therapist, or a lot of people know the five stages of grief that
Hmm.
we would have been learned in school,
Yeah.
from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. So he worked a lot with her in developing those, and we all know those are linear. They're not linear. Like you had talked about earlier. You could be angry one
Hmm.
day and depressed the next, and maybe go to finding meaning and then back to depression or back to denial. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not linear, and she never meant it to be that way. And
Hmm.
I think people took it as that, and that's really too
Of
bad. But
course.
so anyway, so then he decided, I think it was after his son had died, that you know what, there's more than five stages. There's finding meaning at the end. And if you can find
Mm.
meaning, then it makes the pain lessen. So
I
you
love
remember
that.
with more love than pain. Right. And that's
Yeah.
kind of my goal too, is to remember him with more love than pain. And you don't have to suffer. That was the big thing for me, is to learn, you know what, you don't have to suffer. That's a choice.
Yeah.
You're always going to grieve him. You're always going to miss him, but you
Hmm.
don't have to suffer. And that was like a huge turning point for me.
I
Yeah.
like that. And maybe it's like, I don't know. As a person, I've always been really hard on myself. And like when you're saying that, you don't have to suffer. It's like, oh, and maybe people like that can relate because it's like, no, I have the choice. Not the choice, but like how
Well, it's
you
like this.
proceed.
Yeah, and it's like a loyalty to misery. So,
Yeah.
especially like losing, and everyone's grief is their worst grief, their worst
Mm.
loss. So, you saying, well, I didn't lose a child, so my grief isn't the same. Well, it is your grief. Do you know what I
Yes. And
mean?
you can't
That's the
compare
worst. That's the
trauma or
worst
grief.
loss you know of. So that you
Exactly.
can't compare. We do this comparative, so then it causes, well, my
Right.
grief's better than yours, or you know what I mean? And it's just not the case, right?
That's
Everyone's
it.
grief is
It's
theirs.
yes. Oh my
But
God. I'm like loving everything you're saying
but
because that's so
yeah, there's just
true.
that loyalty, right? That you think, well, for me especially, like to lose a child, how can you say you can never find joy again, or you can be happy again?
Mm.
Like you have to suffer because you loved him. Then you don't love him enough if you're not suffering. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's that
Yeah.
loyalty some people have to, well, I need to stay in suffering because this is the worst loss and I'm never going to get over
Yeah.
this. But it's a choice. At the end of the
That's
day,
right.
this didn't just miraculously change, wake up one day and I feel happy. It took a lot of freaking work
Mm.
and a
Mhm.
choice to get out of suffering and to find
That's
meaning,
right.
you
That's
know?
right. It's like
Yeah.
we were saying of after grief, loss, trauma, whatever it is. Sure, it's not going to be perfect, but like we're saying, like you have a choice of which do you want to go down that self-destructive path or do you
Hmm.
want to
It's that
heal?
mindset, right? Where,
Yeah.
I used to wake up some mornings and I got on the path again, the journey, spiritual journey, whatever I was on, that I had to find something to be grateful for. And there was a
Yes.
lot of days where it was my bed, it
Yep.
was my dog. A lot of days were the same things, my
Yeah.
comfy bed, my dog. You know,
Mhm.
some days were really hard to find something you're grateful for, but it's that by doing that every day, you shift your mindset to
That's
see things
right.
in a different way.
It's a practice like anything, and that's it too. I think a lot of times people give up too quick, and it's like it's not going to be easy right away. It's not like snapping your fingers and all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, yes,
Hmm.
gratitude." No, like sometimes, especially dealing with something intense. You like Michelle, she's like sometimes it was the same, sometimes it was this. That's okay, but you still did it. You still
Yeah.
showed up for yourself, which
There's
is beautiful.
always something. Even if
Mhm.
it's, like I said, it was the blanket I had on my bed, or it
Yeah.
was the dog that cuddled up, Ruby that cuddled up
Yeah.
beside me, or, it's sunny today. I'm going to be
Yes.
happy that the sun's out today because that was always a big, if the sun's out, I always felt better,
Me
because
too.
the night it was rainy that night too. So
Oh.
yeah, it's just finding, at least if you can get three, you're having a good day. And
There
if you
you
can't get
go.
three, that's okay,
Yes,
but
find
to
one.
do it every day. Yeah. And I did
Yeah,
that for a long time and it really did. You don't realize until you can look back to say, no, that really did help me
that's
change my
right.
mindset. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel the same because, like, during, sometimes it might not feel different. And like you said, it's after you put in that time with it and can
Yeah.
look back, you're like,
Yeah.
did make a difference. It did help.
Yeah.
I find readjusting our mindset and things like that are so challenging as is because once that neurological pathway is developed, it's very challenging to
But you can.
redirect it.
It is,
Exactly.
but
Oh,
it
yes, you
can be,
can,
right?
girl.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Totally can.
We are
I'm
both, we're
living
living
proof.
proof.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. It's so true with
So
anything in life.
yeah, no, I totally agree. So yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
over the place, Kaylee, sorry.
No,
But I just want to
this
read
is
this
my
story
brain.
because okay, good. I'm the same. So it was just when I read it and I highlighted, his book is like all highlighted and stuff. And it was just such a cool way of viewing the world as we see it and how, so yeah, I'll read it and you'll understand.
Yeah.
So again, it's about twins in the womb. So in a mother's womb were two babies. The first baby asked the other, "Do you believe in life after this world?" The second baby replied, "Why, of course. There has to be something after this world." "Nonsense," said the first. "There is no life after this world. What would life be like? The umbilical cord supplies nutrition. Life after this world would be impossible. The umbilical cord is too short. There can't be a world after this." The second baby held his ground. "I think there is something, and maybe it's different than it is here. Maybe we'll see each other there." The first baby replied, "If there is another world, no one has ever come back from there. Living here is the end of life, and after delivery, there would be nowhere to go and nothing but darkness." "Well, I don't know," said the twin, "but certainly we'll see Mother, and she will take care of us." "Mother?" said the baby. "You believe in a mother, an all powerful, intelligent being that makes all this happen? Where is she now?" The second baby calmly and patiently tried to explain. "She is all around us. It is her that we live. Without her, there would be no world." "Ha, I don't see her. It's not, sorry. It's only logical that she doesn't exist." To which the other replied, "Sometimes when you're in the silence, you can hear her. You can perceive her. I believe there's a reality after this world."
Whoa.
Isn't that
Ooh,
powerful?
mic drop. Whoa.
Right?
I swear to God, I've never had
I
goosebumps
get
so
like,
much during a podcast episode ever. And I truly believe it's what we're speaking on too. I think the spirits are all with us right now because I'm
yeah.
like, I on another level. That's amazing. That story is so cool because I think people can relate to that story because it puts it in like a 3D setting. Like everyone
Right?
knows
Because this is
babies
what
are
we don't, what you can't see, you don't believe, right?
exactly,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Whoa, that was
Yeah. I just thought
amazing.
it was so powerful and I read it. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
that's so, especially for us skeptics or, that are very logical brain that have a hard time understanding
That's what
the
I was trying to say.
the
That's a lot.
5D. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God. That was
Yeah.
a great little story. I like that. And what was it called again?
It's called Finding Meaning, the sixth
Finding
stage of
meaning.
grief.
Okay, cool. Finding meaning. I like that. I really like that. Cause yeah, after grief, there has to be meaning that we find to keep going and persevere. So I love
And
that book
I just want to
exists.
say, because I know it depending what stage you're at, if I look back at my library of books that I have, there was different stages books resonated with me, right? So I probably couldn't
Yeah.
have read that book right after because
Mhm.
there is no meaning in what happened. There's still no meaning today in what happened.
Mhm.
The death of your child, there is no meaning in that. There's meaning in what you do after. So
Yes.
how do you, live with them moving on? How do you honor them? How do you find meaning in the little moments? It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
big things. Like I did start a foundation, but it doesn't have to be starting a big foundation or
Mhm.
having, these live events or things for your child. It can be just meaningful, little like smiling at someone when you're going through the drive-through,
Yes.
just looking at the sunset and thinking that's he's
I'm
here,
so grateful,
or the
yeah.
rainbow, and just taking a moment. Like before, I was so busy in my life, the busyness that people are in as
Mm.
a woman and as a professional and working full time and having kids, and you just
Yeah.
you think that's nonsense, or you think, well, there's no time for that, and there's no
Yeah.
meaning in that. Like I don't understand. I got to go, 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 instead of
Mhm.
just sitting. And when I like was in that dark place, I couldn't look back because it was too painful, and I couldn't look forward as to any kind of future because that was too painful. So I had to
Mhm.
sit,
You
and I
had to be
had to get
present.
present, and
Yeah.
it forced me to be present,
That's
forced
right.
me to sit and to breathe and just meditate. I've never meditated in my whole life. I'm not a meditator, like I'm not. And it forced me to like, okay, that is the only thing that brings me comfort right now is not thinking
Yeah.
about anything, not the past, not the future, not what
Right
I need
now.
to do, what's life going to be like, just what does it feel like right now in this moment. And we
100%.
all can benefit from that. We don't need a big loss or a big trauma, you know what I mean? And
Preach.
you
It's so
know,
true, especially in like North American society in particular.
Western culture is,
Right? It's hustle,
uh,
hustle, more, more, more. I'm like,
mhm.
how about no? How about we just
Yeah,
stop for a second? And like,
yeah,
we would be happier individuals with less.
yeah.
And oh my God, I love that you're saying, and I love too, because I mean, we've all been in different areas of life, but you were go, go. And then you were like, nope, present
Mhm.
time. And it just shows like, no matter where you're at in life, what's going on, taking those moments to be present and like Michelle was saying, look at the sun, look at whatever, like
Yeah.
appreciate what we have here and just take that minute for yourself. And it can be very healing.
Self-care is
Mm.
huge, and especially for professional women or anyone in not just professional women, but I find just because that's what I see every day is, and I
Yeah.
was there myself, is that we are as mothers or as women, we take care of everyone else and we
Hmm.
sacrifice ourselves, and we put value in that we sacrifice ourselves to take care of everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And it's just wrong. And your body will, and it happened to me before Avery passed away, your body will tell you, hey,
Yep.
you need to slow
We're
down. You're
done.
not listening. I will make sure something happens physically to yourself, to your body, so you do. And that's what happened. I went to the gym one morning. It was after a
Yeah.
long weekend of hockey with Avery. Fun weekend, but you know how you're driving in it was a snowstorm
Yep.
and tense, and I was working full time and not
Hmm.
taking time off when I
Go,
should
go,
have,
go.
right? Start a new program at work, and so much value in that, which was good, but I was sacrificing things I shouldn't have. And when I sat on the rower and I went to pull, and it was like, and I couldn't walk.
Oh my
I got
gosh.
home, but I could not get out of bed. Like I was scared. I was scared because I couldn't
Yeah.
physically stand up. I was crawling.
And just so everyone
So
listens, Michelle's very active. She's like a CrossFit queen, like very in shape. Like the gym, I'm like, I feel like that's how I connected with you is
it
through
is
the
how
gym.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally was. Yeah.
So very big part
You
of
know,
her life is the
and
health and
it's a
fitness.
good part of your life, right? It
Yes.
was my mental health too. It was
Yep.
but there's a fine line between it's healthy for you and unhealthy for you, right?
Yeah. You
Or
got to
why
get
you're
the
going,
balance.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So that was kind of like a wake up call. I was on a burnout. I definitely was on a burnout from work.
Mm.
I never take any time off after my separation just because that's what we do. Just go, 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 go. You don't have to deal with your
Yeah.
feelings. That's where my value was in my job. So I'm just gonna stay there and keep going, and just it'll just go away if I just run
That's right. Just
faster,
push
it'll go,
past. Yeah.
right? And that's just not how life works. It's not
It's
how your
so
body works.
true.
It's not how trauma and pain work. So
Preach.
I was off for, I think, I would say almost 2 months. It was more than a month. I got back to work. It was my lower back anyway. So I got back to work the Monday before the long weekend of Easter. So I was back to work 4 days before the accident.
Oh my God.
And honestly, looking back, I would say I am most grateful for that time off. because I was
Yeah.
home. I had supper ready at night. I wasn't rushed from work wondering what am I going to make when I get home? What do the kids have on the go that night? Go, 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 go. I was able to be somewhat present, not near to the point I am now, but at least able to spend more
Yeah.
quality time with both kids, but especially Avery.
Mhm.
And I'll never regret that time.
No. It
But
was a
the
shift you
things,
needed.
those aren't the things you regret, right? The thing, it's
Yeah.
time spent taking care of yourself. You'll never regret that.
No,
And we
it'll always
don't.
benefit you, always. And I even
Yeah.
notice in myself, like if I, I stay pretty consistent, but if I do take a step back and I'm like, what, one, why? Like, doing the things that are releasing those endorphins are good. One, they're good for me and I enjoy them.
Yeah.
But sometimes just like with work and things, I do get consumed. And then I'm like, girl, like even today, I was like, okay, go do some yoga, go outside
Mm,
more, take some walks because I know my spirit is like screaming at me. It's like, you need to
mm.
reset, you need to slow down. So
And it's
it's
awesome
so
you hear
true.
that and you listen to it because many
Oh,
don't,
I feel like I've
you
been through
know.
burnout in the past and I will never allow myself to get there again because
Mm,
the recovery from my burnout, it was
mhm.
way longer. I mean, maybe it was happening longer than I realized before I finally like before the universe was like, you're
Yeah,
done.
usually it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
healing process felt so long and strenuous and like it was intense. So don't let yourselves burn out,
Mhm.
people. Not worth it. It's not worth it.
Mm. No, it's not. No, no. And I think one of the other things too, when you talk about like healing from, is that if you don't feel it, you can't heal it. And I've heard that from many people, and it's so
Mhm.
freaking true. And I know I had friends that have lost, and if you're from Miramichi, so there's
Yeah.
been a lot of tragedies. Like I don't remember growing
So
up
many.
that many young tragic deaths.
It's
I don't
wild because
like we're such a small place that it affects
yeah,
everybody, right? So it's not
yeah,
just there's secondary losses. So there's so many different forms of losses, right? There's like traumatic deaths like this where it impacts
yes,
the whole community. So everyone grieves, whether you
yeah,
really knew them or not. You still
yeah,
grieve, right?
mhm,
Because there's some kind of connection to somebody or something, or it's just a child in our community, so we grieve.
that's right.
And it's been, and I see, so when there's more than one, then there's cumulative grief too, right? So it triggers a lot of times people that have lost a child or lost a brother or lost a grandson or granddaughter, so and then there's all those secondary losses that people don't realize. So you know
Mhm.
you lose friends. I don't have the same friends I had before. You
Yeah,
lose your identity of who you are
yeah,
changes. There's so many different layers to it. And even for children, like even sibling loss, like I didn't never understood the depth of sibling loss. Like,
yeah,
holy, her loss, and no one really talks about it. No one
mhm,
understands it. And, when you're younger, like she was 13, going to be 14, you
yeah,
experience like different developmental losses as you go along. Right. So she
absolutely.
lost him at that stage. And then she got to the stage this year where she was the same age as him. So now she's
Mhm.
outlived him, right? So that's another kind of developmental stage there she has to kind of grieve all over again because she's at a
That's
different
right.
developmental stage. You know what I mean? There's
Mhm.
many different layers to grief too that we don't necessarily understand. And I know I
Yeah.
didn't understand before. I'll own that one. I didn't
I
understand a
love
lot.
that you said that about the layers because like that is so true. It's like it's not just this loss. It's like this it's like the no, I don't want to say a catalyst, but it's like the thing that leads to all the other like layers. Like you
Yeah.
said, layers. It's the
Yeah.
perfect word.
Yeah.
Wow.
And triggers, right? It triggers
Yeah.
and to me, a trigger comes up. I used to get triggered quite a bit. So
Mhm.
even if it was like I remember before I was doing this with you, Kaylee, I was looking at my journal because I wrote a lot at the beginning. That was a big help for me.
Yeah.
And I just reading something, I'm like, oh, I almost wanted to give myself a hug because I'm like, oh my gosh, you
Oh.
could feel the pain I was in, right? Which was a great way to
Yeah.
express it, to get it out because it's got to come out, right? You can't hold on
That's
to that.
right.
And so
Journaling is
whatever
very
form,
healthy.
very
Yeah. I
healthy.
like
Whatever
that.
form you need, some do yoga, some dance,
Yeah.
like whatever you need to do to get it out, it has to come out.
That's
Um,
right. I feel like there's lots of different things that can release in different ways. Like yoga helped me in an emotional way, but boxing, however, got the anger out and stuff. But
yeah, yeah,
I like to journal too. And I think a key with journaling is it doesn't have to be perfect. Your handwriting doesn't have to be pretty. Just go. Don't even
yeah.
think. Just write. And
And some of
it'll
the stuff
release.
I'm reading back, I'm like, damn, that was good. Did I write that? Because I don't even remember writing that. But
That's
yeah, it's
amazing.
just, yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that, Kayla. I forgot completely my train of thought there, but it's gone.
Um, we were just talking about the different ways you can heal. We were saying how, you can journaling helped a lot for
Mhm.
you. And then we were saying, different emotions might come out through different activities or
Yeah,
like
yeah. I don't know what I
whatever
was.
it
There was
may be.
something else anyway. But there is something interesting. I was because I'm a big podcaster and YouTuber. Like I follow all
Yeah.
that. I never watch TV anymore, which is really weird for me because I was a big TV person before. Anyway, so they were talking about Dancing with the Stars. So there's actual grief yoga. So you can do
Do
a
you
form.
see? I just
Yeah,
spilled
you
water
got it.
all over me. Enjoy. This is me as a person.
Is this-
Here we go. All
That's
right.
all
Little
right.
splatter for everyone. Sorry. Okay. Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah. So there's different. So what they found from Dancing with the Stars is that anyone that went on the show really were able to process a lot of their trauma in their
Yeah.
past and
Yeah.
grief through movement. And so
I
now
love
they've
that.
they've come up with a whole, I don't know what it's called. Um, I want to say kinesthetics. There's something, a form of it anyway, that they're looking at for therapy from grief and loss and trauma.
I love that.
And it's
Dancing
one of
just
the head
fills me
ones
with
from
joy.
Dancing with the Stars. I can't think of her name, but she's the
Yeah.
one that's kind of spearheading it. And I'm like,
I
that is
love
really
that.
cool because there's so many more
Totally.
modalities, like from social work side. And I
Yeah.
try to tell my staff that now too, is like there's so many other forms of healing out there that we can't
Mhm.
dismiss.
Exactly.
Indigenous
Like
culture in
Maxine.
general
Yeah.
has,
Oh,
like, Mac there, like
oh,
bam,
that's so
right on
funny.
the
We're
same.
so connected.
'Cause I love Max and their culture
Right?
is,
And
I've
Max and
gained so much healing from their culture.
so much. And what I love about Max is she's so welcoming. She always is willing to share. And I feel
Yeah.
so honored when she includes me in things because I know
I
it's
know.
very special and I want to
Yeah.
respect everything and everyone. And she is so open and wanting to share that. And like when we were talking about dancing, her and I, that is like our
Mhm.
joy. Like
Right.
we talked on a previous episode about different things and she talked about dancing a lot with and
Yeah.
her she's in social work and therapy. So
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
there's just so many different modalities that we can tap into, that if
Yeah.
that's what the client wants, if that's what who's coming to you for help, if that's what they need, be open to it, allow it, go with
Mhm.
where they're at, give them different options and let them decide. Don't just narrow box this into therapy because
Yeah,
it's just not going to heal everything. And
that's
they're,
right.
you need hope. You need to know whether it's God, creator, spirit, energy,
Mhm.
whatever you can find to cling to give you that hope and to help you heal within and find that power.
Mhm.
Because that's what I named the site, is power within to
Yeah,
heal, because you have to find that, and the power is there.
that's right.
It's never lost. We don't need to fix
No,
anyone. Everything you need is inside of you to heal from anything, any
I
trauma, anything
agree.
you've gone through. You can
Yes,
heal
and we're
that.
so much stronger than I think sometimes
Oh
we
my
give
gosh.
ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
Like, you might feel like this is it, this I can't do it. And we always persevere. And I think sometimes I know for myself, you don't give yourself enough pat on the back, like
Yeah.
looking backward, like give yourself a hand, everybody listening.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
have been through things, whatever those things are, and you're here and you're doing whatever you're doing with your life. And I think it's important to give yourself that credit because I know I don't do that enough for myself. And I'm like, wait a
Mhm.
minute, you got here. You're doing okay. So
Yeah.
give
And
yourself
it's
that
not being
grace too.
conceited. It's not being
Exactly.
boastful to say, you know what, I'm a freaking rock star to get myself to where I am. Like, I'm proud of myself. And that's okay. You
Yes.
should be saying that. Like, we're born to do
Yeah,
hard things. We were born
that's
to do hard
right.
things. And,
Oh, preach.
it's amazing the things you can, but again, it's a mindset and it's a choice,
It's true. It's so
you know.
true. And like when we're saying these things too, like, well, you've got it the whole time. It's not when we say it, like, you're still going to feel things that maybe you're not like, you're like, but I didn't choose to feel this. It's just, it's going to come up. It's your body. Like the body also stores
Oh,
grief and trauma in different
source
ways.
everything.
Right? I find that
Hmm.
so fascinating because like I didn't
Hmm.
realize that. I do now, but when
Hmm.
I was first learning, I was like, what? Because even with massage therapy, for instance,
Hmm.
like I have like a magical, she's back east, but she's
Oh,
magical. She's amazing. And she's so very energetically inclined as well. And like there's certain things that will release and it's so emotional because your body's hanging on to
yes,
all that.
yes, yeah. It's amazing, eh? The energy that you store.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just things that we're not taught that in school. So we're in a helping
Exactly.
profession, that we're the first door that these people come to, and where we have this, only know. And it's not because they don't want to help. They want to help you through. It's just not necessarily where we're taught the right ways
That's
to do
right.
it, or that there's other ways, not just the one way.
That's
And there
it.
is
That's
no right
it.
way. There's no right way to do grief. There's no, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to check this box off and do this assessment.
Yeah.
And then, even though like we have like a assessment, like a DSM that, gives you diagnosis. Like I remember going to my doctor right after, and he's a lovely man, very caring, but gosh, the things they ask people, like, you know, and I did take antidepressants at the beginning. I
Mhm.
did, but I didn't want to stay on them because I knew I wouldn't feel, you can't, if you're numbing, like you talked about before, if you need to take it to get you through,
Yes.
100% that's what
I've
it's
been there
for,
too. Yeah.
right?
When you're at
And
that
that's
point,
what
sometimes
medication,
you have to. Like
totally,
there's no
because
choice.
there's a
Yeah.
line there where no, I need something or I'm never going to
Yep.
be able to get to where I need to. But I was at a place where no, I'm okay. I need to heal this. I need to feel it. It sucks. It's horrible, but I
Yep.
just had some kind of knowing, a sense
Yeah.
within that you can do this without this. But
That's
I
right.
wouldn't tell my doctor that. Because I knew as soon as I told him that, he's going to say, well, she's healed. She must be good because she's not on medication. Then she can't be
Yep.
grieving her son anymore. And, just the questions they would ask me, like, because of course, it's part of the diagnosis. Like, is this
Hmm.
complicated grief still? So are you missing your son more than a few times? Are you crying every week? Well, yeah. Or do you think
Yeah.
of him more than 2, 3 times a week? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And that's never going to change. You
Nope.
know, it's just such a archaic way of, you know, assessing people that
Oh,
just we
it
don't quite
is.
understand. No time frame to it. Like it doesn't end. Like
No.
there's no, yeah.
I love that you said that too about how you just kind of knew when you needed to come off of that. Because I was the same. I knew after a certain point, I was like, okay, like I'm ready to come off of this medication. And even doing that, it didn't mean it was like you said, it wasn't magically better. I felt like I could connect easier, to be honest, with my pain when I was off
Hmm.
of it.
Me
Because it
totally
just,
too. It
yeah, I
wasn't
could
doing
sift
anything. It
through
didn't
it.
make me feel good. It didn't really help. It didn't, and maybe it's because of where I was in my journey and the things I was doing
Yeah.
because I was like a like student. I was like reading and and almost to the point where I had to say, okay, are you spending too much time on that side and not much time in reality and real life? Because
Mm,
you got to balance that too. You can't stay in the
very
everything feels
true.
good, believing in the mystical and magical when you live in reality. So you have to find that
So
balance
true.
there too, right? So
Oh my
yeah.
God, you're saying so many good things because like I can relate to everything in a different way. Like eh, I've too at times was so consumed in the
Yeah.
spirituality and everything, which is again, it's great, but you do still have to live in 3D. So
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very,
So
very
yeah.
powerful. Um, what was I going to ask you? When I feel like I have squirrel brain, so I'm very happy that
Yeah,
you're
I'm
like,
the
no
same. So yeah.
worries. I wanted to circle back, like when you were saying that you connected with Avery through, different mediums and things, I'm just genuinely curious. Avery say what it's like where he's at and just
Mm,
that kind of thing?
yeah, yeah. That's always a question, eh? Because I can't seem to get, of course, my logical. I'm in the 3D. Like I need to know, okay, like when he wake, like in my head, I'm still thinking when he wakes up, which he doesn't, because you're just energy, you're pure love, right? You just go back to source or whatever you want to
That's
believe.
right. Yep.
Um, so from what I can understand from the many questions I do ask, because of course, because my logical, I'm going in with like 10 questions I need answers
Yeah.
to. Like I'm spending this much money to come see you. I need to know.
Hmm.
And it would be, the way they explain it to me is that if you want to be somewhere, you can be there. So if he wants to be still living, like as soon as you cross over, you can still eat food if you want to, if it makes you feel good,
Really?
but you don't need to. But you love the
Oh,
connection to it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah.
Or like one time they said like Avery was playing. He was in this. He explained the detail, and it sounded like the camp that he used to go to. My mother and stepfather, which he loved. Like he would say, "I want to live
Mm.
there when I grow up." Like you don't
Oh,
need to be anywhere else, just in the woods. And it sounded like it was there. And so if that's where he wants to be, he can be there. And in the next second, he could be playing hockey with his friends. Like, and they can
wow.
just, because they're energy, they're just
That's
pure
right.
energy. There is no time and space, which is so
Hmm.
hard for us to understand. For me, the logical brain, what do you mean there's no time and space? So
Yeah.
there's no time, like there's no past, present, future. There just is. It's just
Yeah.
now,
Oh my God. And you know
you
what? I
know?
think we could take that and apply that to our lives here because time
Totally.
really
Yeah.
is like it's an illusion.
It's an
We
illusion.
think,
Everything's an
yeah,
illusion, right? It's yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, no, but I couldn't. I never got. I always, and of course, it's because we're living in this reality and where our mind is so narrow-minded, right, as to what
Mhm.
really this is all about. But it was, I wanted to hear, okay, well, he would wake up and he would go to school and he would do this, and then, you know what I mean? But that's just not what I'm not going to get the answer I'm looking for because it's not what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell you a story. It was really cool when I went to or Palaki. I can never say his name
I don't
right.
know
I
if
always
I'm
say it
even
wrong.
saying
I
it
feel bad.
properly.
I know I can spell it, but I can't say it.
Yes.
But he is amazing. And so the first, I think I've gone to maybe 3 times. Once a year, I try to go. It's like a tune up. It's like I get a little tune up every
Yeah,
year. And
totally.
so maybe the first and second time, I was in deep grief, like any mother would be. And then it was quite a time span between the second one and the last one I had with him. And he's hard to get into too. So
Mhm.
I did a lot of work on myself. So I did a lot of Abraham Hicks. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
her, but I couldn't.
She's
Again, my
great.
logical brain. I started with her, and I couldn't. She was like too out there. I couldn't get it. I'm like, where? No, I just inner
Gotta
child.
work into
I
her.
don't understand. Like, there's no inner child inside. I don't understand what that means. Like, I'm so logical. And then, so then I got on to Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He
Mm-mm.
has changed my freaking life. Like,
Wow.
he's a scientist. He's a doctor. He has gone through, I know he was in a bad accident. He was biking and got run. I think he got hit by a car and was supposed to have the surgery on
Wow.
his back, but ended up healing his back with his mind.
What?
Way out there, right? Way out there. But
Whoa.
he's all about, the quantum field and understanding energy and how to change your mindset. That thoughts are the language of the mind. And your feelings are the language of the body, and your thoughts and your feelings create your reality. And I just connected with that. I don't know why. I would do his
Yeah.
meditations and I was like, I understand now. I understand what
Yes.
inner child really means. It's not like there's a child, it's like there's that trauma and wounds from your past that are still present. And when something like this happens, and a lot of people have said that when you lose someone this traumatically, it opens you up that you don't just grieve this one, you grieve all the losses, all the trauma, all the wounds you've had in your whole life that you didn't even realize. There was stuff I thought I had a good childhood. I did have a good childhood, but there's still, every child has you don't
Absolutely.
get through childhood without any wounds. Like, you just don't. And we carry those, right?
100%.
And we
Yep.
don't, most,
Oh, yeah.
including me, did not realize I had any of those. I thought I dealt with my father's death fine. I thought I dealt with my childhood fine. Obviously not, because this is why I'm this way. This is why I'm a
It's
helper. This
wild,
is why I
eh?
have no boundaries. This is
Yeah.
why, right?
Yes. The
So
perfectionist, the this,
yeah,
this. Oh,
put everyone's needs
so
in front of
true.
my own and
Yeah.
second guess everything. And
People
so,
pleasing. Like that's a
right?
big one for
It's
me too.
all a
Yeah, yeah.
form of past trauma, right? Response to
Yep.
trauma. And so his work, whatever it was, his meditations just resonated with me.
It
And I
clicked.
was
Yeah.
able to start to heal, and I could feel it. Like, I could feel how it was healing. And he connects that you know, how you need to feel what you want. You have to actually feel it, what it's going to feel like to be where you want to be.
Yes.
And I don't know what it was. I did them for a long time. I was feeling better. I was feeling more joy than pain. I was able to get myself to a place where I felt I was truly healing past wounds. And so then I went back to Palaki. Um, and I didn't say anything. And I really didn't even have that many questions this time. I was just curious to see what he would say.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, and I wish I could have it on a video. I have it on my voice recording, but and I don't know if you've been to him. So he's so
No, but
expressionate,
I've
right? And
I've watched his videos and most of my
okay,
best friends have been. They're like, "Kaylee, you need to do this." I'm like, "I
you
know."
totally, you really do.
Come
And
home
so
to him.
you do, you got to go. Yes, you can do it through FaceTime. You can do it from there. That's what I do.
Oh, you just unlocked it. There we
There you
go.
go. You looking him up after. So anyway,
Yeah.
he looked at me and he goes, and he connects right away with like guides and spirit and your loved ones. And he's like, "Ah, it's fascinating." And the way he would say it, I know it. He'd be talking to them, but not really talking
Yes.
to you. And he's like, I am sorry, but it is just fascinating. Like, he said it, I'm sure, 3 or 4 times. And I'm like, I just waited. He's like, your colors. You were so dark. I don't even know what my colors were before, but you were such
Yeah.
dark grief. What I expected. He said that's what it was. You were clinging, wanting to know answers from your son, you know, trying to, like, more like, please tell me he's okay. Please tell
Mhm.
me he's still there. Like, needing that reassurance. I don't need that anymore because I have a knowing.
Yeah.
I know.
You
And he's
know.
like,
Yeah.
your colors now, I've never seen a parent, a grieving mother heal that fast. And he said, whatever
Wow.
you're doing, you're
Keep doing
keep doing.
it.
That's what he said, keep doing it. And I kind of explained, he's like, that's because it's your logical brain and you needed that to get you to this
Yeah.
point. And he
Did he
said, you're
say
not,
what your colors were? I'm curious
I
what
think
yours
they're
are.
more like a green, like
Yeah.
a, that's what I've heard from a few
Yeah.
people. Warm, like light blue, green or
Yes.
whatever. And he said, Avery was there and he says, you don't even like, you don't like before I'd be like, Avery, please send me a sign. Just let me know you're
Mm.
okay. I do that all the time. And he's like, you're not even doing that anymore. You know, when you get a sign, you're like, hey, Ave, thanks for the sign. And you
What's
move
up?
on.
Yeah.
And that's totally what I do. I'm like, thanks, bud. I knew you were going to
Yes.
send that sign. Or if I need to talk to you, I'm going to talk to you. But I don't cling to not the needing the reassurance like I did. And he said
Exactly.
that helps him on the other side too, because he knows you're okay. So
It's
once he
more of a
knows you're
clear
okay,
path.
he can kind of move on to what he needs to do, right? We're always be
Yeah.
connected.
That's right.
But yeah, he was just like blown away. And even our reading
Wow.
was it shifted. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
because the last time I went to him too, he's like, you don't want to know about the accident. I'm like, nope, I don't need to know those details anymore. I'm past that.
Yeah.
That's not because I find with trauma, especially, or with when something like traumatic like that happens, it only happened once, but yet we relive it over and over and over again. So
Yes.
he didn't, in my mind, he was dying every day because I take myself back to that accident scene and I take myself back to what it was like in the hospital. And it only, and your body doesn't know the difference. So your body think it's happening every day. Every day I thought of that, my body went right back to being in that place. Right.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that because I'm thinking, well, that doesn't make sense. But it's true. Your body doesn't know the
Yeah.
difference.
I
So,
love that you said that. I love that you said that. Like, it's so true. Like we were saying, the body does not forget. And like when your mind is triggered or in that place of whatever it is, your body is just reacting like like the feelings, like you were
yeah.
saying.
And it's not your mind, right? So your body's just going on
Yeah.
your feelings. So it's like, oh my God, it must
Yeah.
be it. And it's the same with anyone that's been in trauma and lives in
Mhm.
survival mode because 90% and
PTSD.
90% of us live in survival mode now. And
Yep.
so you're triggered and you're in this hypersensitive state
Oh,
where
fight or
you're
flight,
just fight or
fun.
flight or
Yeah.
freeze or you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's if you're there, it's because your body keeps thinking it's needs to
In
fight,
danger
it's
or
in
yeah.
danger. Yeah.
100%. I
Yeah.
can remember being triggered over certain things and literally like the physical things that go through my body. And
Mm,
this is how I can tell the difference now between because I kind of lost trust in myself because I'd let, you know,
yeah.
things happen and I've again blamed myself, which again
Mhm.
work through that.
Mhm.
But my intuition feels different than my PTSD trigger feels. And like,
Yeah.
because it fills my body with really gross feelings. And now I
Mhm.
know I'm like, you are triggered right now. This is not real. This is
I'm
not real.
replacing you with something that feels
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. And,
Yeah.
I know for me, it was a quote I put on my site that it was just like, I don't know what made me think of it. It was like, I stopped looking for him where he was and found him where he is and found myself
Yes.
where I am. So I had to stop looking like he's not going to be in his room. He's not going to be at the school. He's not
Hmm.
going to be at, his sister's prom. He's not going to be all the time. So if you can take yourself, like, that's re-traumatizing you all the time, right? And takes you into that suffering that he's not there. Well, no, he's not there, but he's here.
That's
And
right.
and I found me where I hadn't found me before too, right?
Yeah. Wow. That's so, so, so powerful. Oh my God. Do you have any like my anything you share so much, but with advice maybe for
Yeah.
anyone dealing with something
Yeah.
similar?
Yeah. I know one of the things I will say for anyone that's going through grief after that have asked me like what should I say or what shouldn't I say? Because people are so
Hmm.
scared, they don't know what to do. They want to help. Everyone wants to help and they want to be there, but they're so scared that sometimes they avoid, which isn't
Yes.
great. And or sometimes they just say the wrong things. And what I always say is just be there for them. And if you don't know what to say, I don't know what to say. Don't try to make it better. Just sit there
Yes.
with them. And please, and this is one thing, if you remember anything from today, is please don't say, let me know if you need anything. Because guess what? We're never going to let you know because
No,
we don't know what we need. We're in such a
that's
state we
right.
don't even need to know. We don't know how to ask for help, right? It's not that
Hmm.
we don't need the help. We need the help. We don't know how to ask. And most people are lucky. I have a best friend who just knew when to be there.
Yes.
I didn't. I kind of cocooned myself for a long time and I just didn't want to be around people. And that's
Hmm.
okay. Like there is no right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
Some people like to be out with people and just feel good, and that's fine too, but I just cocooned. And
Yeah.
she would leave supper on the doorstep. She would know when, oh,
Oh,
we're going for, wouldn't ask me. I'm picking you up in 10 minutes. We're going, you know,
I
just
love
knew.
that.
It wasn't like, let me know if you need anything. And I used to do that too. Like I used to be, well, let me know if you need anything. I'm here for you. Well, if you're really
Mhm.
here for them, show up.
Yes.
That's my advice. If you don't know what to do, drop off a meal, not the week after. Wait a month or two or three or four or five, six, even
Yeah.
a year later. Take them for a drive, drop something off, mow their yard, do
Mhm.
something, right? They need help, but they just don't know how to ask.
So, so true. Oh my God, I love everything you said. And I feel like that applies in so many areas, like they say
Oh,
like
definitely.
actions speak louder than
Yeah.
words. And like, yes, words are important, of course, but
hmm
in moments especially like that.
And
Yeah.
it's important that, it's wonderful to do it right after, but for someone, and I know probably some of your family too, you don't eat. Like I don't even remember the first. I remember my one of my friends saying, "Okay, I think it's time to go get a shower. Like you need to get to the bathroom because you're in autopilot, right? To get through the
Yes.
morning, you're just in autopilot, and to eat anything wouldn't matter what it tastes like. You wouldn't care. But it's weeks, months, especially the months after where everyone kind of goes back to their old life, back to normal, and you're stuck there and you don't want to make a meal, but no one else is making it for you. So do you know what I mean? That's when people really
Yeah.
need, when the mourners or the grievers think everyone's gone back to the real life, which you do, that's just reality. Just remember that it's not normal for them and nothing's normal for them anymore. There's this
No.
beautiful, it was in Australia, and it was a researcher, and she studied different communities and how they grieve and what they do. And this one little community in Australia, when someone passes away that night, everyone in the community, and it must be a small little village, but everyone changes something in their household or in their outdoors, like outside their house. So they move a chair, they change a pot of plants, but it's a symbol to say, we understand that nothing is ever going to be the same. Isn't that beautiful?
I love that.
And our Western
Wow.
culture is more like, okay, nope, we did the morning, we went to the wake, we did the funeral,
Back
we
to the
brought you some
grind.
sandwiches,
Yeah.
and now we're back to normal, and you guys need to move on and, deal with it and move on. But I thought that was such a beautiful way of
I
coming
love
together
that.
and mourning together and showing them, you know what, nothing's changed, everything's changed
Yes.
everywhere. We
Yeah.
understand that about you. So,
Yeah. We're in
yeah,
this together. I love
yeah,
that. And
yeah.
that's such a simple thing for
Yeah, it's
people
not
to
hard to
do.
do, right?
Simple but powerful.
And it means that those simple things mean a lot to those that are
Yes.
grieving, right?
Oh,
Simple
I feel
gestures
that.
mean a lot.
Yeah. The little
Mhm.
things I always to me make everything. It's always those little things I feel like we remember and
And
it's
how
it's
people
so powerful.
carry, and I think the other thing I really like to for people to understand is, instead of us saying, I understand right after the loss to say, I'm sorry for your loss. I get it. It makes
Mhm.
sense. But in months and years later, like someone said it to me the other day, I'm sorry for your, and I know that's all they know how to say. But I would recommend or suggest that, why don't you say, well, what was their name? And a few people have said that to me, and I'm like, thank you. I like that. Like, what was his name? And it
Yeah.
kind of takes you back because you're not used to someone saying that to you. And it was like, or tell me, what was he like? You know,
Yeah.
ask to know, because we love, believe us, it doesn't make us sad. They're always on our mind,
Yes.
so say their
It,
name, tell a
yeah, and you get to
story,
celebrate him. Like the Swedish
celebrate
fairy
them,
story. I'll never
right?
forget that. I love
Yeah, it's like
that.
they have a name. Avery's still my son. He's
Yep.
still around. I say, and I know some people probably think I'm crazy, but I'll speak to him is in present tense. I don't
Yes.
say, Avery, what would have loved that? Avery does love that.
Yes.
Avery would be proud. Avery is proud, you
Mm.
know? And I
Yeah,
I
because he's
hope
still
people, and
present.
he's still
Yeah.
present. He's part of our
Yeah.
lives. He'll always will be.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God, yes. I love that so much. And it was again, it's all connecting. Like what we were saying earlier about how you had to be present and how we feel like, in life we all should be more present. And that's keeping Avery present, because he
And
is
being
present.
Yeah, and being comfortable
Yeah.
with it to speak about it, right? We just
Yes.
need to shift that culture to that it's not grief illiterate anymore, and it's not bad to talk about your loved ones. It doesn't mean that you're not grieving properly or that you're holding on to someone that you need to let go of. Like you don't let go of
Exactly.
them. Yeah,
They're
yeah,
yeah, it's so true. They're always going to be present in your life, your heart, your soul, everything.
yeah.
So I love that. And I'm all about celebrating. So to me, that's a
Mhm.
celebration of him. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, do you have any final words of wisdom for us? You've said
Oh
so many
gosh,
beautiful
I
things
know.
already.
I think for again, I think for anyone grieving, again, there's different stages depending on where you're at for but books, and I know not everyone's a reader. And again, I wasn't a reader either, but at the beginning I read all kinds of books from other grieving mothers that were kind of like light posts to me. Okay. Well, she same thing kind of happened to her and she's here writing a book and she got through it this way. And this other mother got through it this way. And it just gave me a kind of a hope. It gave me a sense of possibility that I wasn't alone was a big one
That's
because I
right.
find even though there are other people that have gone through the same, everyone's at different places and not everyone's comfortable talking about it. I found that was big for me. Like, just, and then I kind of got into the spiritual side, and those books have been great, like Gabby Bernstein, and just different spiritual guides along the way. And then I don't know if you've heard of Edith Egger.
Mm-mm.
So she wrote two books. One's called The Gift and one's called The
Okay.
Choice. And if you ever think you've been through too much and it's not fair and there's no way to find meaning or hope in your life, she was a prisoner in the concentration camp. She was only, I think, 14 or 15, her whole family. And she
Wow.
survived. Her and her sister were the only two to survive. And she became a PhD psychiatrist or psychologist after moved to the States. Her story, like you can't how she was able to find meaning and hope in the
Mm.
worst possible scenario day in and day out and finding the like I said gratitude, finding the smallest little thing to cling to survive. I'm telling you, her story is amazing. You can YouTube her and stuff too. She's amazing.
I
Amazing.
love that.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm like writing all these books down. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes. And the good thing too, people, if you're not a reader, Audible, like you
Oh
can
my
listen
gosh.
to any
YouTube.
book
Like
you want. Yeah,
Joe Dispenza, I've never actually read any of his books yet, but I've YouTubed him so much that I feel like I've read his books. So there's so many
exactly.
options now. You don't have to actually sit and read, but that was important to me at the time. I needed silence.
Yes.
And it was just something, and it, again, distracted me from reality maybe a bit too at the time. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, then there's some Canadian ones that are great too, like Jessica Jansen. She's actually in Alberta. I don't know if you heard of her. She does
Oh,
a
nice.
lot of work
Cool.
out west, and she has a whole foundation for her son, and
Wow.
she does a great. And then Sherry Fitz, she's from well, I don't know if she's from New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, but she always wrote these fun light books. Then her son died, and she wrote, and this was raw, and this just came at the right time. And again, you have to be at the right place in your grief journey to read it, but it's called You Won't Always Be This Sad. And it's a book of moments, and it's just like little poems, little like it's such an easy read. It's a really heavy read because she's
Yeah.
very intense and graphic as to what happened. But if you're a grieving parent or gone through something really um, catastrophic or just unsure how you're ever going to get out, this is an amazing book, and it's an easy read. And again,
Cool.
David Kessler's book is my go-to of all
The go-to.
time. Yeah,
David Kessler, cool. That name sounds, is there a CrossFitter or someone with that last name? Like that
there might
last
be
name,
actually
I feel like,
Kessler. Yeah,
okay, because
yeah, that's
I
not
was like,
him.
no. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's not the same person, but that last
Yeah.
name kept sticking out. Oh
I'm
my God.
actually taking a course from him right now so I can be a certified grief educator. So I'm
Oh,
really
that's
excited about that.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Like, cause, well, I guess we should talk about, we'll get your social medias plugged and then you can maybe share a little bit of what you're doing with your, Power Within to Heal. Cause I think that's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, well, my page that I'm starting to do just kind of share my story and quotes and things like that and inspirations is called The Power Within to Heal. And of course, my own personal pages is Michelle Allison. So yeah, the start, it was one of those things where you got to step out of your comfort zone. And I've had a calling for a long time. And I had a lot of friends and family are like, look, you need to write a book. You need, and so much, and it really helped me heal too by doing it. It was more for myself. It was being selfish. It was to help. I didn't know why. You just do it, right?
Mhm.
It was something
That's
inside me. I
right.
just need to write. And I need to share. And it was vulnerable and it was raw sometimes. And I wasn't ashamed or I wasn't there was no shame in doing it, which I'm thankful for. And I've
Yes.
gotten so much feedback from people saying, "You've changed the way I view grief now. I wish I could have done that when I lost someone. You make me understand better." Just I'm an inspiration. Like, it's just hard to hear
Yeah.
sometimes, but it helps me to know, okay, I am, and if it's just one person I help, then it's one person I help. But it's someone I wish
Yes.
I had had when I went through this. It didn't seem so dark.
Absolutely. I 100% agree and feel that. And in my own way, I totally can relate because you've gone through something so intense. And it's not that you don't want others to feel that, because that's their journey. Whatever's going to
Yeah.
happen is going to happen. But if that happens to them, when they can find someone they can relate to, like you, that was your saving grace with some of these books. And I can relate as well with different books or people I found. Like, it gave me so much hope in the dark. And
Mhm.
I think that's why you're called to share, because like you're getting all this amazing feedback, and it's so true. And I mean, even that you're sharing this on this podcast just means so much to me, because I know there's going to be people who can relate and learn something, and it's just amazing.
And that's my hope. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and I
absolutely.
do have, on top of that, I started a foundation for Avery. It's called the For Ave Legacy Foundation. And it really came out of, it stemmed from a need to improve organ donation in our province and in Canada in general. Because we
Hmm.
wanted to donate Avery's, well, we knew we couldn't donate his main organs because of the way he passed, but to donate his corneas and heart valves, there's certain things that could have been donated, but due to lack of staff and just our program, the way it was set up, it wasn't possible. So I've been a strong advocate to try to get those changes made and to get Avery's Law, is what it's called, in place in New
Yes.
Brunswick. And if and when it will happen eventually,
Hmm.
still hoping, clinging to that, we'll only be the second province in all of North America that have that opt-out
What?
program. Nova Scotia put it in
Wow.
place 2 years ago, I believe, and there's no other province or state that has that in place. And there's so many
Wow.
people waiting, and it can bring so much healing to families. And again, it's your personal choice, and at the end of the day, it's still
Mhm.
your choice. But there's something in place that will make it more accessible for people to obtain organs, and for the family to be able to gift that too, and
That's
to know your
so
child or your
beautiful.
family member has lived on in someone else, right? It's that gift of giving that
Yes.
never ends. So
Yes. You're
yeah.
reminding me of this video that I don't remember when. I have no concept of time either, but I don't remember when I saw it. But it was and again, the details are fuzzy, but I can just picture the image in my head. It was either a little girl or boy, I can't remember now, but they got a heart transplant from a family whose their family member had passed, and then they got to meet this
Mhm.
little child, and it just, like you're saying, how it's healing for both. That was kind of what the gist of the video was it was
Yeah.
so powerful
Yeah. It's
that
such a
they're,
gift that
yeah,
if you can, and I don't know why, because we honestly, it wasn't something. Avery was always a kid that always did the right thing without knowing, if didn't care. Like, I found out stories about him after, like, he worked at Canadian Tire. He only worked there for like, and the people that were impacted. So you think, oh, it's just a part-time job. You impact people no matter where you go in life.
that's
Like,
it.
about him trying to save a child, like, he never told me any of this, and like these
What?
stories, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But just he just did it because it was the right thing to do, right? So that was part of his legacy. And
Yes.
so we felt like we just went that night and said, can we donate his organ? Like, why we did that, I don't know. It was something inside. Maybe it was Avery
Mhm.
saying, hey, you can need to go. My beautiful blue eyes have to live on someone else. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, yes.
but yeah. So again, I probably was Avery now thinking about it. But so anyway, we weren't able to, but hopefully other people will because of that.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's amazing. Oh my gosh. Amazing. This was such a powerful conversation. I am so grateful for you sharing this with us. Like, I'm just like, whoa, right now, in a good way.
Uh, That's awesome. And you're always worried because this is my first podcast. Like, this is the first time I've done this.
Yay.
I'm more comfortable with a pen and paper behind the scenes, write it all out and then post it, right? Like, this is me stepping outside of my comfort zone. And like, I have stuff written down. I didn't even look at, you know what I mean? But again,
Yeah.
my logical mind is I need to have a layout here of how this is going to go, but you need to
Yes.
follow your heart. It's more authentic and it's more powerful when you just follow your heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you just, oh my gosh, you said so many beautiful, amazing, and helpful things. Like, I just know it's going to impact many, and I just really appreciate you. Also, for everyone watching on YouTube, I'll make sure I link all of her social medias and everything in the description box. If you're listening via podcast, everything will be linked. If you're looking at the Instagram page for my podcast, everything's going to be tagged. There'll be no trouble finding Michelle if you want to connect with her. So that's our tea time for today, everybody. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. It really means a lot. And like and share if you're resonating with us. It'll help build this beautiful community up. And that's all for today. We will see you next time. Bye.